Hello again. It's your protest mom. Sorry, I wasn't able to come to you with the protest news on Monday, but I was too busy thanking the good dear Lord that the worst did not happen. We'll discuss that in a minute because I want to address something someone said to me in a DM. It's like, boy, you worry a lot, kind of alarmist, ha ha ha, just like my mom. And before going any further, I feel the need to respond to that. Is that thank God nothing happened. Let's start there. Thank God. Because look at what's happening in Louisville right now. They have already started the arrests. Our people here, the police were prepared for that. They were prepared for a Louisville style response. Just because you see cops out, take that number, multiply it by 4, and that's how many they're ready to deploy that you cannot see at a moment's notice. Because see, if it looks militarized, it scares people. And then that's a PR problem. So we'll come back to all of this and how it ties together. Long time ago, I got pregnant the first time. And when I got pregnant that first time, the new obsession was organic. Everything had to be organic. And I cannot begin to tell you how much I hate that word. One of my favorite things to do, mainly because I'm an asshole, is walk anyone who was like, oh, this is organic and I made it myself. I'd be like, oh, that's awesome. What does organic mean? It means nothing. It's a marketing term. They'd always like spew anything that like the Food Babe, I hate that name too, the Food Babe would say about organics. And I'd be like, oh, so you know what else is organic? Poop, AIDS. Let's call us anyone who's taken organic chemistry and talk about that. And that would tear apart like their whole idea. Organic does not de facto mean clean. It does not de facto mean better. It does not de facto mean safe. Unfortunately, there's a whole generation that has now been raised by moms by that point. This wasn't new by the time I had my first, who have heard organic is better. And there is some truth to that, maybe when it comes to like baby sheep. I can totally see how Dolly, if you remember that at all, might be a little bit nerve-wracking. Like maybe you don't want to buy a dolly and you don't want to eat a dolly. I'm with you on that. But very little in this world is truly organic. Why does this matter? If you didn't organize it, someone did. Ask me how I know. I know I allude to the stuff I've done in the past, but I promise you, any place I've been, any revolution you've heard about was not spontaneous combustion. It was incredibly well organized, with most of the machinations staying underneath the surface and out of the news until after the revolution itself was over. Quick, white people, answer me. What was the name of the organization that Martin Luther King founded? How about Malcolm X? Just saying, most white people cannot name Martin Luther King's organization. And they were super well organized. So was Malcolm X's organization, the Black Panthers. But the opposition was even more organized. And the first thing they did was take out the leaders of both parties. And then both parties were presented to the public as incredibly dangerous and fizzled out. The tools of our oppressors are manifold. And they absolutely rely on public opinion, PR. Not only do we have an organization problem, we have a PR problem. One of the first things that I look for when I show up is the thing that I used to create. It's called subversion, and I don't see it here. The problem with organic protests is that you got a lot of people who make plans about that are contingent upon what can we do, who do we have, what resources do we have, me. And the problem there is that you're not taking the opposition into consideration. And any good coach would tell you the best defense is paying attention to what the offense is going to be throwing at you, right? Because if you can't defend if you're playing blindly. Sorry, that was ableist. If you're playing without any prior knowledge of what could be coming your way, especially if said knowledge is easily available, I would call that lazy. Now, if you haven't spent a whole lot of time doing this, I'm not specifically calling you lazy. I'm saying we need to find out what it is that we're subverting. Because I'm that person who will be like, what's the rule? So it doesn't say, and then I will slowly strangle you with the rules that you created to keep me out of your space, DAR. I have a lot of fun with that. But and that's true. I'm in there for that reason specifically. And it's fun for me because, again, why? And so I like to figure out where they don't want me to be. And then I show up in ways that they can't keep me out. And that's how I amuse myself and will continue to amuse myself before the revolution and beyond. But even further, if we're going to be doing this, then we need to be figuring out what we're subverting. Because what you saw happen last week is that the one of the two parties that organizes anything here on a higher level is PSL. Love them or hate them. They do. When there are PSL events or events that are promoted by certain individuals that I know and trust, I will show up because I know that they've thought things through. Not saying it's safer, not saying it's better, but what I know is who the organizer is. I don't show up if I don't know who the organizer is. Black people, I just retweeted this from Leslie Mack. So normally I'm speaking to white people here, but I want to include you in on this. Specifically now, more than ever, if you have no idea who made that poster, if you have no idea who's going to be waiting for you at the Capitol, then you need to operate on the assumption that it's the police. And not to say that it absolutely is, but rather I need proof that it isn't. When I sat in a room for training a long, long time ago, the instructor walked in and looked at all, there might have been 60 of us, I think, at the time, and said, at least one person in this room right now is a cop. At least one person in this room within the next year will become an informant. That's how this works. Those are just the numbers. And you need to operate on that assumption going forward. So rather than trying to keep certain elements out, your best defense is figuring out what it is that they would be looking for and operate there. I know that sounds, again, a little bit boring. But this is really the way that we need to be thinking, acknowledging the tools of the state, subverting them whenever possible, and creating tactics that would work for us and the movement rather than play into their hands. Because right now, the PR narrative that they have, that Mayor Hancock is promoting, is this is a really safe city. Crime is a tough thing. We've spent all this money on police officers and crime's going up. So we're going to spend more money on police officers because we are committed to your safety. White people who are not necessarily involved or caring hear that and feel good about it. And this continues. It's important. And I think that what happened this past week is huge. Like, we should be using this to our advantage, and we're not, that I can see. Not to say that one is valued over the other, but until this grows, this movement grows, we're going to need bodies. And Denver, I'm sorry, we're going to need white people, not just the moderate whites, but we need people who are like, oh my gosh, and showing up. And what should have prompted that was the arrest of 2 white women. Again, I don't love it. I'm not saying it's fair. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm saying that if you can step back and look at that as a data point, that is one that we could be playing to our advantage, because it's just terrible, and the police are doing their jobs when it comes to a certain demographic, and we're all protesting against that. But the thing that's going to drive more to the movement is when they see the people who are a little bit nervous, that don't like what they hear but aren't quite compelled to get involved yet, when they hear something that absolutely sounds like overreach, that's going to drive them. Take a look at any picture of Lillian Haas. Take a pic. I mean, Eliza, come on, you look at the two of them, they look like our daughters. They look like our kids. The first reaction that I had when I heard both of them speak, like, oh, they went to college and read Marx. That's nice. And then you become horrified when you realize that they were in prison for 6 days, unable to post bail. I would have their mothers out speaking about it. And not to center the movement around white people. The movement is about excessive force and how unfair it is, that it is what, like, that Willem Dafoe is dead, but Lillian Haas is alive. But at the same time, we've got to be subverting their narrative of we're only getting criminals. Like, yeah, look what else you got over here too. How does this fit your narrative? The exception makes the rule. There are lots of things that we could be using to our advantage in PR war, and we're not. And I'm just throwing that out there to say, if we want this movement to have legs, if we want it to grow, then we need coordination at least. An organization relies on coordination, and nothing will thrive without it. Everybody needs to be sort of on the same team, but have an idea of what the ball is and where the finish line is. Otherwise, you're all just, it's true chaos. And chaos is not it's not how wars are won. Chaos is what the state wants. It allows them to retain control. Again, ask me how I know. There are times that you bring in people to create more chaos so they can't plan. And that already started when they arrested the heads of PSL, the only party really organizing big events in Denver with a name that is truly trusted across the board. No offense, DSA. You guys do great stuff. I love volunteering with Jail Support. Please volunteer with DSA for Jail Support. But when you ask the layperson who's new to the movement, who throws the events, it's PSL. And for better or worse, that's what it is. So without further ado, I'm going to get in a little bit because obviously I'm wearing my mom's shirt. I'm going out tonight. And before I walk out the door and terrify my kids with this, figure we better have a talk about what that is and what to expect. So I'm going out tonight, not because tonight is so important, but because someone important to me is coming out tonight. And I told her a long time ago, whither thou goest, I will follow. She was my first protest kid. And I don't say publicly that I love her best, but I do. I will say that I loved her first. And if she is going to be there, even though I don't think it's a good idea, I'm going to be shielding her with as many bodies as humanly possible. The golden rule when it comes to these events, it's black lead or it's bullshit. If there is no black leader at the mic, get out. The only black leader I can confirm for tonight, whose organizers I do not know, which gives me great pause, is Jordan, the head of the Black Senate Caucus. There are no names on any of the signage that I've seen passed around. I've seen arrive at 6. I've seen arrive at 7. I've seen a lot of directives, but I've not seen a lot of coordination between any of these, which leads me to believe that there is none. And if there's no coordination and there's no tactics, and they're not considering what could be coming their way, meaning that their plan does not include subversion. Their plan is a response to the news today, which is precisely the type of chaos that our oppressors are counting on. The ball's not in our court, and I don't like that. So show up being ready for the worst. Please, on your social media accounts, we'll do a whole nother one about OPSEC later. Like, I'm a public-facing figure. I was public before this. I'll be public afterwards. I was always intended to be public. Always. It's not that I just don't understand OPSEC because my name's in my Twitter handle. Like, no, you can come at me and call me boomer all you want. That doesn't make you correct when you're not thinking through all of this. And when, by the way, I can Google your Twitter handle and find who you are, no matter, because you use the same handle on a Flickr account that you forgot about 7 years ago, but still have pictures up for. Yeah. You do that. So if you're going to talk, we'll have a different conversation another time about OPSEC and about consistency and about actually scrubbing that digital profile of yours that very few people have bothered to do. It took me about 30 seconds to figure out who that last DM was, by the way. So you might want to check your OPSEC, bud. I know what I'm doing. I'm also not breaking the law. I'm also a member of the DAR. I'm also white with economic privilege. I am the last person. It doesn't mean they won't come after me. It doesn't necessarily mean that I am the invisibility cloak from Harry Potter, but God, I wish I was, just so I could wrap myself around J.K. Rowling and we could pretend she doesn't exist anymore. And we could go back to enjoying Harry Potter. But anyway, we have to stop using words like show up in block, because that's a call to arms. And any call to arms is seen as a threat to them. We have to, without saying it from this point forward, show up prepared for the worst. Show up with this. Just bring the good gas mask. Wear it in a backpack. Bring a whole lot of water. It's hot already. It was 87 degrees earlier when I picked up my kids. It's going to still be 87 degrees until the sun goes down. Bring something other than this. If we're all black, just for the sake of the people around you who are in block, because by the way, block is amazing. I see block and I feel safe. That's called community defense. Out of respect for your defenders, please dress as they do, unless you're Walla Moms, in which case wear yellow. I'm pissed that we got called out 4 times in that DA video today. They want to know where the line starts. It starts with us putting our bodies on the line to protect Black lives and allow Black people to have the protest and exercise their First Amendment rights in the way all of us should be equally free to do. Number 2, after showing up ready for the worst, fully expecting it, that means you need a protest mom. Just because I'm going to be there tonight doesn't mean I'm not on duty. I am working with someone, you don't need to know, doesn't matter who, to be fulfilling part of that. You don't need to be in touch with them. You check in with me, and I will be checking in constantly with that person. But you should be checking in with me on your way to the event, which means that you would be giving that information to me before I leave for said event. I live really close to the Capitol. None of my protest kids that I know of right now do. So you're supposed to let me know before you go down. Second text when? As you're ready to leave. Third one, after you get home. We're still going to be looking for all of that tonight. So you still need a protest mom. And if you see me, feel free to come up and say hi and give me a hug. Don't use my real name, even though everybody knows what it is. Just don't. That's a habit y'all need to get out of. This is not social. This is not chatty. But if you need a hug, I will absolutely give you a hug, because I know these things can be scary. Let's drop it at that. Okay? Get out of the habit of talking in order to feel more comfortable. Nothing is going to make anything from this point forward comfortable or palatable. Anything you say can and will be used against you, and you need to operate on the assumption, like I did a long time ago, like I still do, that 1 out of every 3 people I interact with is either an informant or a cop. So the less you say, the better. Make them do the work finding out everything they want to know on their own. Number 3, and I hate to say this, leave before dark. Before it gets too dark, before things go on, that is what they're counting on, because that plays into the narrative. The reason, in my opinion, that there was not more that happened that went south, the mass arrest did not occur the other night, was because everybody went home before dark, well before dark. They came, they protested, and they left, which is not the usual PSL MO, and which is not a ding on PSL. You know what? They've been the same. They've been very consistent for decades. If you didn't know what you were getting, then you didn't do your homework. They're very well established. They're wonderful at taking tension and ramping it up just a little bit in a way that drives the type of PR that you need and the urgency to the movement. It's on the rest of us, the respectable people, because it's respectability politics, the moms that you see at pickup. I picked up my kids wearing this today. Where are you going tonight? Oh, party. It's going to be great. Want to come? At the Capitol. I don't know if you heard the news. It's pretty serious. Oh, yes. That is how you recruit people, by just doing the work and being open about doing the work. We don't have to talk about how wrong it is. I certainly don't want to engage with anyone in a debate. This is my response. Any questions? Why aren't you? When it becomes the revolution, when it starts with the workers and the lower level people that your average middle-class person does not identify with, once it trickles upwards to the respectable people, then it's taken more seriously. So Walla Moms, we bring gravity to this movement. We bring new, fresh eyes to this movement. We lend something to this movement, and we can detract from it just as quickly. We've got to be there, again, back to the golden rule, amplifying and protecting Black leaders. And once the Black leaders go home, we need to as well, because then it's only us left on stage, and we're not supposed to be the story. So understand what it is that you bring to the table and leverage it, and we bring quite a bit. Again, this is another one that pains me to say. If you're going to stay after dark, that is cool, and we thank you for it, and we love you. I am just saying that, like most people, this is what I said to my protest kids. You really need to go home before dark. Our oppressors are expecting the worst. They are ready to act, knowing that we have to respond. We have to give them nothing to act on. Okay. And this is the final note. If you're on bond right now, stay home. If you're wondering if I'm talking to you, the answer is yes. And I'm talking to you. And I'm talking to you. I'm talking to 9 of you and 4 more that I love very dearly. And I don't want to otherize you by calling you out here or calling you individually. But if you have to ask, the answer is yes. If you're on bond, stay home. Okay. The first thing the oppressors do is they take all the leaders, and then they take out the most devoted followers. And then we have nothing left. So right now we have no coordination. We have no organization between factions. We have no ball to push forward, and we haven't since SB 2217 was passed. We are responding to their action, which makes ours tonight a reaction, not an action. And I don't like playing defense, knee-jerk defense. I like going on the offense, and I like winning. That is what I do. That's what I've always done. And I will not hesitate to mess with anyone and use tools at my disposal to make that happen, which is why I'm trying to have this conversation with y'all now. When it comes to what you bring tonight, remember what the DA said this afternoon. I called it out in my live stream. He said there was a protester here, and they circled Sam on the board, who had a gun. Now, why would you bring a gun to a protest? Clearly, you were planning to do something other than protest. The fact that he showed up with a gun was used against him. Someone who is exercising his First and Second Amendment rights simultaneously is being prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Meanwhile, someone who, two white men, did a hit and run and are not going to be charged. I tell you that to tell you this. There are black leaders who will call out and say, show up armed. The question you have to ask yourself before you do, is that person talking to me? And be really certain of the answer. If the question is in your head, I'm not sure, then don't bring your guns to town. If we know right now that that's a big clue that the DA, the presence of that gun is going to be used against him in the case to nullify that he was a protester. Because what the narrative they're trying to construct is that there are opportunists amongst us, vigilantes, who are looking for any reason to do wrong, and that's why we need the police. And their job is difficult and dangerous because you never know when someone has a gun. So we have to give them that leeway in order to do their job well. That's the actual legal arguments that are used in court when it comes to excessive force and police brutality. We put their lives on the line. We have to give them leeway too. So I'm not telling you what to do or how to do it. I'm just saying, now you know. The DA is going to set a precedent here. Publicly told us that if you show up armed, that negates your story of being a protester, because they're trying to conflate protesters with vigilantes. The more we can disrupt, the more we can subvert, the more we can act without playing into their narrative, the less likely we are to be arrested, the more likely people who look and have a LinkedIn like mine are to come out and act and join this movement. And the more momentum we're going to have until a new set of organizers come to the forefront. Between now and then, please be careful. Make good choices. Drink lots of water. Wear all the sunscreen. If you don't have sunscreen, I got plenty, but it's called Unicorn Snot and it's glittery because this is what I use on my kids. Wear that once, wash it off once. You'll remember your own sunscreen next time. I do it because I love you. I'm going to run through the comments now because I wanted to get through all that, and then I've got a 4 o'clock meeting I'm about to be late to. There's a lot of division. Some of it's petty, some of it's real. I'm not trying to be anti-autonomous. I'm trying to limit the ability for the state to come in and subvert the movement like I think they've been doing all along. Anarchy is about, from what I understand, it's about a collective. It's about collaboration. It's about coordination. And that's all I want. I'm not anti-anarchy. Autonomy I gotta say, it's tough in a movement for a bunch of autonomous to come together with autonomous actions and expect to get a result against a huge, very well-funded, incredibly coordinated machine that is determined to quash opposition. That's what I'm saying. From a strategic perspective, we need coordination. I don't hate on autonomy in general. Good. Okay, thank you. That's first I've heard of that. I haven't seen that anywhere. Yep. Oh, good. The only person I'd heard of was Jordan when I called Leslie Harrod's office earlier. Thank you for that. That's for you. MAGA my asshole. Thank you. See, I want to be really clear on that. I don't hate autonomy and I don't hate anarchists. I hate police brutality. I hate the state machinations. I hate excessive force. I want to win. That's not going to happen with a whole bunch of autonomous actions. Autonomous actions, though, do help. It's all for it. But we need multiple, we need to be coordinated and moving as well on multiple fronts. It's not either or. Because again, any revolution you can name in the late 90s, early aughts, and I would love to talk offline about this. How did those occur? It wasn't spontaneous combustion of a whole bunch of actions. The uprisings were very well coordinated, like little bombs that were strategically detonated. And that is more like how we need to be thinking. Not bombs specifically, but metaphorically, for sure. Glitter sunscreen is amazing. Thank you. I'm going to try. I'm going to be out front wearing the good jewelry, respectability, politics. I might even change out of this and put on like one of my yellow sundresses. You're really going to fuck with somebody that looks like they came out of a junior league meeting? Police, not so much. It also will look really good with my new umbrella. So that's all I have to say. If I offended, I apologize. Let's talk about it. I'm not anti anything. We're all on the same team, but this is where the divisions come from. You saying I can't do what I want to do? In times like this, the action you want to take and the objective you want to achieve are all too often mutually exclusive. So we have to now focus on the objectives that we want to achieve much over the actions that we want to take for the good of the whole, for the collective as a whole. Yay. Yellow dresses. Why not? I'm like, let's dress like we're going to church. I think that would be a lot more powerful than yellow t-shirts. I got some yellow dresses I would love to mess up. All right, now I really got to go because I'm late for my meeting. See y'all tonight.